Welcome everyone to our talk back about the Aurora season at Evermore Park. Bob, do you want to introduce yourself again?
I'm Bob.
I kind of did it. And Crow.
Hi, I'm Crow.
So Crow is going to give you a rundown of some of the things that went on with the plot this season.
I'll try to be brief. It is a bit complicated, and the way I'm going to tell this is in chronological order, not necessarily in the order that it was revealed to us. Basically, the plot of Aurora this season was that there was a Prince Everest Colburn, as in like family to Eirik Colburn. If those of you who've been going for a while would probably be familiar with that name, of the Colburn Empire, and his sister Dove Colburn. During a peasant uprising, they fled into the woods and went to live as farmers slash woodsmen to kind of hide out until the heat died down. During that time, Dove was in a logging accident and was crushed and died. And Everest struck a deal with the sugar plum fairies, which are kind of fae born from dreams, apparently, to sort of create a world in which he could be with Dove again and live their happy lives as prince and princess. In order to do that, they had to remove a substantial number of Everest's memories. Specifically, he didn't want to remember the accident, and he wanted to make sure that no one ever reminded him of the accident. So they took that stuff away. When you talk to Everest in the park, he didn't remember a lot of things. And he was always advertising himself as just the Prince of Aurora because he couldn't remember that he was a Colburn. All of this happens. They all come to Evermore. There's various factions. There's the Duchies of Peppermint and Gingerbread. And
the other guilds I know for sure, there's the Woodland Critters.
Yeah, there was the they called themselves the Yuletide Critters.
Oh.
And also the Wolves of Winter. Those were all the guilds this season. And they were all there for various reasons, business deals and stargazing and all that stuff. And there was one person in each guild that was, plus the Elves of Light, that was not who they said they were. They were actually a sugar plum fairy, and they'd sort of infiltrated and altered the memories of the people around them to make it seem like they'd always been there. So like Leif from the Peppermint Duchy became this second half brother of the Duke, but the Duke only had one half brother, like things like that. And anyone in Evermore who came close to remembering anything kind of just, or even just heard the term sugar plum fairy, would just kind of forget instantly, like they had a brain lapse or something. Things didn't really start to unravel until Kelly O'Connell and a character named Zora looked into some records that they had gotten from Aurora and found that a lot of these people didn't actually exist. So they just they weren't on any official census. There was no record of them existing. And the first to break was Clove Snap from the Gingerbread Duchy. She was the first one to be revealed. And from there, it was Leif, and then it kind of snowballed out of control. Now, Everest, it was discovered, had this artifact called a piece of heart glass, which can store memories. And that one contained his memories of being a woodsman. And from there, the Sugar Plum Fairies kind of started to freak out because their contract with him was unraveling. So they told him about his connection to the Colburn throne. They told him about Dove, and also that what they had discovered was that Dove, being a non-living construct, was so cold that she was drawing heat out of people around her and giving them like pretty substantial frostbite that would go away if she then stopped spending time with them. So he had to make a choice, which was to continue living with this fake Dove, which would put other people in danger, or give it up, break the contract, and go home, which is ultimately what he chose. And there was a very strange moment towards the end where all of the various factions in town were like, by the way, if you decide to usurp the throne, we are 100% behind you, bro. Like, we will support you the whole way.
So who is he usurping? Who's in charge of
Eirik
Aurora right now? Okay, so
no one likes them, apparently.
The peasants had an uprising against him, and his kids went and hid in the woods.
I don't know. I don't think we never got confirmation that like how Everest was connected to Eirik. I think they're too close in age to be his children. Was the general consensus. I think they always suggested, oh, maybe he's his brother or something. So I don't really know. I don't know if the uprising was against Eirik's father. I don't know if the uprising was against Eirik. That was not information that I got. So the other plot line I was following was sort of a secondary plot, and it was that these two warlocks came to town. One was ice, Gwyneth, and one was fire. Kevin, he was a fire elemental. He chose that name. I know a lot of people said that he should have been Kelvin because like the temperature, but they were kind of at odds in a sort of odd couple kind of way. They were both trying to get their hands on the staff of Winter. Gwyneth wanted to bring it back to Eirik because she'd been having problems staying in his good graces. Kevin wanted to destroy it because it was pretty obvious that Eirik was going to use it for bad things. At the end, Gwyneth kind of went home to Aurora and didn't tell anyone she was coming to surprise the king, and she overheard him like making fun of her to his advisors and also talking about what he was planning to do with the staff. So she came back very distraught, laid this all out for Kevin, who was just incensed that he'd been bullying her, and they worked together to deactivate and take apart the staff of Winter.
And Eirik was planning to essentially just kind of take over all the kingdoms with the staff, correct?
So it seemed.
Mm-hmm.
The good ending, where they
Yes.
worked together to dismantle the staff. How do you pronounce Kevin's actual name? His
Oh yeah, I
given
wrote
name?
that in there, didn't I? It's
Yeah.
just, it was supposed to be like,
Okay, it's just the
Fire.
sound of flame
Yeah.
or something. That's cool, because he's been around for like thousands of years, right? Like just
Right.
this being.
Do you know, with that ending, it sounds like nothing was ever done about it, but we had that scavenger hunt to get ingredients to unfreeze someone that Gwyneth had frozen at court. Did she ever unfreeze this emissary?
I thought that she'd frozen lots of people. I think she realized that the potion worked, but I don't remember.
Okay.
I was not following that one super closely, sorry.
That's all right. And if anybody has further questions on the plot line, you can make comments about that down below, and we'll try to answer them after the fact. Bob, choose something from your list.
Okay. I'm going to pick a moment with Nida and Baba Friga at the second to last night of the season that I thought was really cool and touching, but didn't record it because I'm a buffoon. And I missed this opportunity, but
Sometimes you're living in the moment. That's
yeah,
fine.
I'm just like caught up in what's happening. But essentially, from the perspective of most guests that were coming through the park, they didn't know about the sugar plum fairy things or anything. It's just that there were these groups and the individuals in them, and nothing seemed off. That's also how it would have seemed to all of the people in those groups. And one of the cases of that was that from Baba Friga's perspective, Nida was the apprentice that was like learning how to tell these stories and stuff. And they were close. They have these special experiences that they shared and bonded over, but none of that was real. It was all made up, like it was all fake. And you can think of how certain individuals might discover that and become like enraged, like this reality that they thought they understood isn't real. It isn't what happened. But Baba Friga was so cool about being like, what makes us friends and what makes all of this real is the memories that I have. And I actually have these memories, and it doesn't matter if you put them there or we share them, like you're my Nida and you'll always be my Nida, and was super open to Nida still being a wolf of winter, even though she was the sugar plum fairy. And
Baba Friga's like philosophy was that it doesn't matter if the memories were manufactured. Now that she has them, they are real.
Exactly. Yes, that's a better way to put it. And Nida, in a similar fashion, I think, really did grow to become a wolf of winter and be bonded with this group and have a genuine and real love for Baba Friga. So after the end of this all, there was like, I think from Nida's perspective, and I think I have the letter that she wrote on my phone, and I don't know, whatever, provide that if needed. But she kind of assumed that this was all going to be over. Like this life that she had been living, like she wouldn't be forgiven for it. And she was almost brought to tears when she understood, like, no, I'm still part of this family. And she, after the contract is broken and she doesn't have to be doing this anymore, is still going to continue to be a wolf of winter and like go on living life with them. So it was a
That's so
beautiful moment,
cool.
And
and
that
you had to
wasn't
be there because it's not on tape.
that
So
was definitely the most like pronounced moment of it. But on the final day, it didn't seem like that was like that out there of a perspective, because Duke Edvin and Duchess Gingersnap also had a conversation where they're like, I know those memories weren't real, but like they're still there, and we spent a lot of time with these people, and I'm kind of fond of them now. Maybe we should invite them over for dinner sometime. Like with those two, they were impersonating a family member.
mhm.
Leif was supposed to be the Duke's half brother, and then Clove was supposed to be a cousin or something. And so they were all like, they already had that sort of built-in closeness that was manufactured, sure, but you know, psychology and all that, it was made real to them. So yeah, so it wasn't that unusual of a sentiment thing, which I think is kind of nice.
Yeah, I love all that they were still like willing to be close even after the deception is revealed. It could have went either way for sure.
We'll see. This season were pretty fun too. They like I really like both Nida and Baba Friga specifically, but they had nightly activities. They would do stargazing where they would lead everybody around town and you'd have to solve a riddle and then find like a shiny rock, and then they would go back and you determine what those points they would give you a map to draw the points on, and they would sort of determine what Earth constellation those corresponded to, and get somebody to try and tell the story of that constellation, because all of our constellations have like mythology behind them, right? Same as theirs, and they would tell their own Auroran constellation mythologies. So they were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun this season.
Yeah, and the story time was a really cool effect too. Like there was
Yeah.
associated with some of the stories you've seen, like the projection on the ceiling, I guess you would call it, of Drakenhaven, kind of like the side wall.
Mhm.
That looked really dope, and then for them to be able to like incorporate that into the lore of like the whole purpose of them being there was to share stories and like learn more about the stars was really cool.
So who was a couple of everybody's like favorite characters?
I've already talked about Kevin and Gwyneth,
Mhm.
so I won't say much more about them other than that. I mean, I should talk about their magic shows.
Yeah.
I did see both of them. They were both very different shows. The one that I saw from Kevin was mostly card tricks. Gwyneth's was more of a like traditional family friendly magic show with lots of props and different things. They were both a lot of fun. I did describe Kevin's show a couple times as being high concept. I liked it, but I think some of the like kids in the audience didn't really get it. So I felt bad about that, but they were both really good. The Count and Countess didn't really fit into the plot summary, but they were both extremely funny. They were sort of the town gossips. And so I figured out pretty quickly that a lot of times that was where we got like our lore drops. Was they would have some rumor that would have a smidgen, a crumb of truth to it. And so I would look into it and there'd be something there. That and the gingerbread duchy had cookies and milk, which was a gossip session, and that was where a lot of plot threads happened as well. But what I eventually figured out about the Count and Countess, because at first like their legitimacy as Count and Countess was in question, because they claimed to be from Kelsrun, which was like not really much of a kingdom anymore. It was mostly like farmland, and then there's apparently a mage school there or something. But they checked out, they were on the census listed as the Count and Countess of Kelsrun. But what I eventually figured out is that they are penniless, and they were just scamming Evermorians out of their money. So
Like
Bob has a story about that.
Yes.
that was really cool. There was a goblin named Queg, and they were like from the beginning of the season, just like, oh, I have this money, I need to like invest it. Like, what am I gonna do with all this money? And right at the end of the season, the Count and Countess convinced Craig that they were building the first train ever in Aurora, and they were like gonna name it after him, and like construction's going well, but it would really push things along even faster if you would bring all of the gold that he had to this specific location at this time. Make sure you have it all on your person and just show up here and everything will be fine. So I'm sure that things went great for Queg after
Yeah,
the
I'm sure he
was-
didn't get robbed at
yeah,
knife point or anything.
definitely wasn't like stripped of everything he owned and left on the side of the road or anything. That would be crazy.
But they were also responsible for the Nigerian prince scheme, if you
I
want to
didn't
talk
know
about that.
that.
Oh, they were,
No,
yeah, they were the
go
ones delivering the
on.
letters.
I didn't know they were behind the can you tell that story then? Sorry.
Well, okay, I wanted to let you talk about it because it's on your list, but
Yeah, but
maybe we can tag
I
team
guess I
it.
didn't know as much. I just thought it was really funny.
It was funny. Basically, Duchess Ginger Snap was getting letters from Nigerian Prince Tim asking, he was, he was in love with her and he was trying to get to her country so they could get married, but he needed some money first. Those of you who have been alive in this century at all are probably familiar with the Nigerian Prince email scam. It has a technical name, but that's what everybody calls it. And are probably, so you're hearing some alarm bells right now. The Count and Countess were delivering those letters, and if you asked them about it, they would kind of giggle and joke about it. They were doing that, and then on the last night, I definitely, during the cookies and milk time, I was just like, well, I heard they're penniless and they're the ones responsible for Prince Tim and blah blah blah. It was
Who were your favorite characters this season, Bob?
I have a lot. I think that my favorite character was the Candy Countess. And I think part of that is that I come with my 4-year-old daughter to the park a lot. And one of the cotton candy countess's thing is that like they're like terrified of children. They're like, ooh, like these dirty little scoundrels, like keep them away from me. And initially I was like, oh man, like that stinks because I have a dirty little scoundrel and they're gonna get bummed out because these people don't want to like it was just going on in my head because that's how I would react to it.
Yeah. Because
But
she's
my
one of the
daughter was like,
prettiest princess characters. And
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Like, oh, I want to go up to these cotton candy people. And it's like, ooh. But my daughter became obsessed with them. So if we were in the park, it was really cold in Aurora. So she pretty much stayed in her wagon and had me cart her around. But she would like throughout the night be like, take me to the countess, like take me to the cotton candy queen is what she called her. Right now, I need to scare her again. And I would just like kind of go by and she would react like, oh, like, no, this is a little child. And like her eyes lit up and it was the funniest thing in the world to her. She would come home and like draw pictures of the cotton candy countess throughout the week. So it was the opposite effect as I had thought. The fact that she was scared of the children was delightful to the children. The thing about the cotton candy thing that I also adored about the cotton candy people.
Yes. I think she was one of she and Otari were my favorite characters. And yeah, I just thought it was hilarious because I came pretty posh a couple of times and she would slightly compliment me, just be like, yes, like that'll do, or this is not as good as me, but other people coming like not in costume, she'd just be like, oh, that's a choice for something to wear, not a good choice, and she would just diss everyone. And in a way that was, fair play and enjoyable for people
Yeah.
and stuff, of course.
she and
But I thought it was hilarious.
She and the Count also had a running bit where every time you were like, okay, see you later, and they're like, I'm sure you hope so.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was good to see us or whatever.
Yes.
They used that a lot.
Their vanity was very entertaining, and
Yeah.
they were just great with their improv, all those lines.
It was so fun. There was
The
one
later it got, the spicier they got, which was also really funny.
I think it might have been the actual honest to goodness last night of the season. The Cotton Candy Countess was sitting in the Crooked Lantern Tavern and was just kind of like, I wasn't doing anything. I was just kind of standing around and I caught her out of the corner of my eye and everyone that walked by, she's just like looking down at and like just mean mugging every individual going through. And it was hilarious. And I came up like, this is awesome. Can I just like get in on this and like mean mug with you? And she gave me like training on how to properly like disrespect people, but like subtly, just like in that moment, Duke Edvin walked in and she's like, oh, like watch this or whatever. And his boots were kind of like worn out because the season was coming to an end and stuff. And she was just like, what are those kind of thing? Like gesturing at his boots. yeah, I don't know. It was down to a science that she tried to teach me, but I could never completely keep up on, where you just like kind of look up and down and just
Speaking of Duke
start
Edmund,
turn
I
away.
really liked the Peppermint Duchy boys.
Those are great lads.
And to your point about Otari, Jackie and Otari had this bit going where every time Jackie saw Otari walking by, he'd yell out, "Oh my God, he's so tall, he can hunt geese with a rake." And Otari would like force laughter back at him.
You mean Otari, the TikTok sensation?
Yes.
Like the
Yes.
phenomenon of 2023?
Also
Don't
proud to
ever
say I
use
was the
that
one who got
hashtag.
Leif to break and admit that he was a sugar plum fairy, although it took all freaking night.
Yeah, tell that story about how you like actually got that out of him.
Oh my God, I did. I tried every tactic. I played dirty with that one. I needled him about it. Rafael had some iron that he tried to get Leif to touch, which he was reluctant to do. Fae don't like iron if you're not familiar with that particular part of the mythology. I told Jockey, and Jockey confronted him about it, because like one thing that actor played really well was that he's like, if you brought stuff like that up, he'd be like, something's wrong. I don't really know what it is, but something's not quite right here. So kudos to that actor. But after all of that, I happened to win a piece of heart glass at auction, and I was going to give it to, specifically, I was going to give it to the Duke. I was hesitant to let Leif touch it. And I think that was kind of like that sequence where I was hesitant to give it to him. And then also told Jockey about it was kind of the final straw. And so he's like, "Can I just see it for a minute? I'll give it right back." So I gave it to him, and he did this whole act where he went into a big supervillain speech and was like, "If you want the real life to survive this season, you better stop telling everyone about me." And I'm just staring into the fire like, oh, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. It did turn out that there was no real Leif and he was bluffing. But that was right before Christmas. That was December 23rd. So another world walker that was there looked at me and he was like, "He didn't just drop that on you right before Christmas." And I'm just like, "Merry Crisis and a Happy New Fear."
Speaking of, we didn't talk about the plot line of, we had the Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus and the elves trying to get everyone on the good list, and Krampus. I didn't ever know how to say that word. Is it Krampus or Krampus?
I always say Krampus.
Okay.
Krampus.
Krampus.
But the elves were playing both sides
Why?
to balance things out, I guess.
For fun. They're fairies. Well, they're not, but same purpose.
Yeah, the elves
Wow.
were usually with Krampus.
They
but
didn't get
you'd also have Santa
fired
Claus.
by Santa. Krampusing, going around town and causing mayhem. I thought that was pretty fun.
But
I was
there's,
really worried about it at first, because I was up in the mausoleum and he was describing like, yes, we're gonna go around and terrorize the town and stuff. I'm like, these world walkers are gonna like start ransacking things. Like, are we gonna like, please put some rules here? But it was just like going around and clucking like chickens and stuff. So I was like, oh my gosh. Whew.
there was a in the catacombs, the door that used to have the skeleton behind it now had the naughty list. And if you pressed a button near it, Krampus would tell you to go quack like a duck at an Evermorian. What I didn't learn until much farther into the season was that if you tried to like reach through the bars, he would yell at you for touching his naughty list. I just never really tried it. But I happened to be in there once when somebody like, I think it was a little kid, like grabbed the bars to look closer.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the voice of Krampus is yelling at him. And I was like, oh.
So I guess note to self, always reach through the bars, because that's like the second time there's been something triggered by that.
I love the things that are set up around the park that you don't have to actually interact with an actor to get some storyline, like things like that. But there's also one that I didn't fully understand, and maybe one of you did better. If you push the button on the hearse, you can hear the Tosher say something about, oh, Mrs. Claus, and insert name of the owner of the copper confection here. Taffeta.
Yeah.
I saw them running off and they had like a bunch of candy. Like, I wonder what that was about. And then if you actually went into the copper confection, there was like a sign on the wall that was posted up, and it was like, hey, Taffeta, thanks for like the fun when we like stole a bunch of stuff from the armory to like do a dunk on Krampus or Is that anything to you guys?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's like a storyline thread you can follow, like just being in the park, the physical things around.
My favorite Tasha Hearst quote this season was when he was talking about the magic shows. He was like, that warlock came up to me and was like, "Is this your card?" And it was, which is crazy because I didn't pick a card in the first place.
And that was one place where they said he's like, and the Warlass, amazing.
Yeah.
So Warlass is canonical in the
Yeah, they called them the Fire Warlock and the Winter Warlass.
Which is very confusing for me because I read that and I was like, she does not strike me as a military person. And that's what I think of when I hear
they were both
Warlass.
military people.
Yeah, she turned away from it at the end though. So
Yeah, but they had both like fought in wars. They were pretty open about that.
All right, all right.
But my favorite moment aside from that is that Bob just posted this video, but I received a letter from Mr. Bakley this season.
Oh my gosh, I saw that and I just wanted to, I'll insert it right here. And I was just like, there's Crow, her face just lighting up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah. I talked about this in the last talk back, but I did follow Mr. Bakley's plotline quite closely. And I was sort of just role playing when I said this, but I asked him to write to me. And even at the moment, I was trying to be like, if you can't do it, like, that's okay. Cause I didn't want the actor to feel obligated. But all of a sudden, Finley, the male satyr, comes in and is like, Crow, I have a letter for you. And I was like, really? And I honestly thought it was gonna be for Wickham. We'll talk about the pass holder quest in a little more detail later, but part of it involved writing to Wickham. So I thought it was going to be from Wickham, but when I looked at the letter, I looked for the signature and saw that it was Mr. Bakley and got extremely excited. So that was a nice moment. Again, like, didn't have to do that. It was very nice that they did. So
yeah. And he just explained that they made it.
They were successful.
Yes.
And now he's going to pass on to the afterlife.
It's really cool that you got a letter. I love that. Bob, favorite moment?
That one's up there. There's so many ways that Evermore Park can create actual magic where you forget that these aren't real people for a second. And dang if reading words on a piece of paper isn't one of them. Like somehow actually like being there and seeing Crow read that letter was an immersive experience. You would think it couldn't be, right? But like it was like real for a split second that this was an old friend that was actually like getting in touch again. I liked Aurora in general. I liked when I went in character, probably more this season than in past seasons, because this character was very dumb and didn't have any idea, didn't have any personal motivations whatsoever. Like they had been turned into a living being, and like that didn't cross their mind as an interesting thing. So they just like continued doing the same crap. And without the handcuff of like thinking like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, what are my next goals? I could just like goof around and have fun. And it was,
were you like a toy soldier?
Yeah, that when we never linked up, we
never, I know.
But yeah, I was a toy soldier Nutcracker thing. My name was Shel Kunchik, which is literally just the name of the Nutcracker ballet in the original Russian. And I just went around having fun. That's a really fun idea.
You were a crowd favorite.
Yeah, like that kind of inspires me for like, I gotta think about some cool character creation like you. I love that.
Anytime something wildly inconvenient happens to me, I just hear in my head, in your voice, depression.
Yeah, I couldn't even really talk good, but it was freeing to like go and experience the park on its own like footing without trying to like add any additional complication to it. It was blissful. So I like.
You just want to fool around and find out.
Nice. Oh, that's fun. I wish I could get like a cool dragon trainer cosplay together in time for Mythos.
There's plenty of time. That's like May, man.
Okay, I know, but money's the thing.
Yeah, no, it's accurate. Yeah. Fair.
And I'm like, I'm on my cool leather pauldrons and whatnot, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so, and then some of my favorite moments where I just really enjoyed, like friends and I like trading with Otari. For some reason I got really excited about this rose and I traded for that. So
Whoa.
that made me happy.
That's so cool. Wait, talk more when it's blinking. I might have said whoa over the shiny part.
But there were some issues that we're just gonna mention a little bit here. um Particularly the pass holder quest had some snafus.
The path holder quest or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to be brief about this because I don't want to be super negative. But yeah, we definitely need to talk about this. For the past 2 seasons, they had a mix of email and in-person letters, and it was following this specific plot line of the Portal Keeper Alliance and this Phoenix Adams that was writing to us. And they also had rankings. So, you would have so in lore where there was a secondary quest for the people that had completed the quest line from Mythos. For this season, they decided to go email only, which I don't have a problem with that because I know logistically it's probably a lot easier. Although they did accidentally mass dox everyone by forgetting to blind CC that one time. Oops.
So they sent out everybody's email addresses when they sent out the email, like we could read it all. And we know exactly how many pass holders there were.
Oops. But other than that one little understandable mistake, I don't really have a problem with the switch to email. But they got rid of any mention of the Portal Keeper Alliance and Phoenix Adams. And they got rid of rankings all at once. Those of you who bought an annual pass know that one of the things they were selling on it was this concept of pass holder specific quest lines and rankings. So for them to drop it in the 11th hour, it's pretty obnoxious to say the least. So what we got of this plot line, because it did get dropped halfway through the season, basically you get this letter that talks about, the first email was in a code and it talked about getting the gingerbread duchy to help you create some sort of blend that would enhance a beacon to reach someone who's trying to contact us. I spent roughly an hour trying to figure out what combination of words I needed to say to get the things that I needed and what I needed to do in order to accomplish this part of the task. They also weren't very clear about deadlines, so a lot of people missed out on this part of the task. From there, the beacon was supposed to be activated, and there was a voice clip in the Fey Gardens that was Laurent from Aurora 2021 speaking to us. I don't know how you were supposed to activate that. Someone activated it for me, like a staff member. I heard rumors that it was supposed to go off at a certain time every night. I don't know. I took a video of it, thankfully, so you will, if you want, I can provide that and you'll be able to see it. But he said something about, if we had a seer stone, we could talk more. And I'm like, about what, Lauren? What do I have to say to you? So that was, I guess that's what I'm getting at, is that there wasn't a whole lot of guidance. And it's definitely difficult. It's tricky with puzzles like this. You have to walk a very fine line between too much guidance and not enough. This definitely leaned more on the not enough side of things. And then another prong of this was that Finley had a letter from Wickham, investigate the phenomenon of the thinness between realms and report back with what you think it would be. The problem with that plot line is that it's from 2021. This is something that Wickham mentioned offhand in Lore 2021, and that was sort of kind of relevant to Aurora 2021. There are no characters in Park this season that were from that season. So there was no one to talk to about it. There was no one to investigate. You were supposed to write back to him, but about what? And so I wrote a very frustrated letter where it was I don't know who to ask about this. So here's some random theories that I came up with. Unfortunately, after that, the plot line was completely dropped. I heard it was because of illness on the part of the writer, but it was never completed. So and again, it's frustrating because this was promised to us in our annual pass and it wasn't delivered on, along with everything else that they promised, basically, aside from admission to shows and being able to skip the line. All of the newsletter, the behind the scenes, the members only nights, none of that was delivered on. So, and then this year they jacked up the price by $100. So like,
Yeah, it's
I guess
interesting. Obviously, gamification is something that has constantly changed kind of season to season. We've seen all sorts of different things from like cards to level up to having guild level ups within the guilds to what did you call them? I forgot when like time kept restarting in the closed
oh,
off areas,
the
the
epics.
epics. Um and that's definitely something that they still don't seem to have found their footing with. And I think it was interesting being able I don't know. I feel like pass holders would be good people to like experiment on that with, but not if it's like a promise paid thing, you know?
Yeah, and especially with
So
them bumping up the price this season, like full disclosure, I did buy an annual pass for 2023.
mhm.
I go often enough that it is worth it for me because it's going to save me a lot of money. However, if you're on the fence and you're looking at this to be like, oh, they're promising members only night, I wonder what that's about. Don't buy it on those promises. Like I can't recommend that you can buy it on those promises, which is unfortunate because I really
Yeah.
want this to be a thing. I want this to continue to be a thing. I want Evermore to succeed. But
Yeah. I
that
definitely am slightly more hopeful for members only nights, just because of a message sent to me. But we'll see, because that would be cool.
yeah.
I would think it
I
would be
really
really
hope that I'm
neat.
wrong. I genuinely hope
Yeah,
that I'm wrong and that they come through on these promises,
I
but
would love to
I have no
see.
reason to believe that they will right now.
Yeah, I would love to see like the first night of a season, like the early open, like
Yeah, like a soft
maybe a
open.
Thursday before the Friday, Saturday opening to be like a
Yeah,
members only night. I think that would be like really cool to
yeah,
see.
like a soft open, or even
Yeah.
it doesn't even have to have characters. Just have like a game night or something. I'd be happy. I'm easy to please. It's fun.
Yeah. And we'll see. You'll have to tell me how things go in the upcoming season because they did remove the exclusive guild rewards
Yeah,
expectation from the list
they
for
did
this
take that
season.
off. They made it clear that they're not going to go forward with that, which I understand it's because of logistical issues. So
Sorry, that
people
they're
are being
not
mad.
going forward with what?
Like the
They're not going
PKA
to have any
quest
more
expansion.
annual
Mm,
pass holder quests specifically.
yes.
I understand that's a logistical writing issue. So
Yeah,
okay, that's fine.
but they did have on there, they're still offering or promising or whatever the word is for this 2023 year, some of the other bullet points that were on the first time that they ever had the annual pass this year that just ended.
Not all of them, though. I will say that.
Yeah.
I'm actually I'm looking for the list right now.
Okay, when you get there, let me know. But the reason, so I found out about Evermore less than a year ago now, and I popped into the Discord like, hey guys, I'm obsessed with this now. Should I get the annual pass? And people were pretty much like, I don't know, man. It's brand new. It could go either way. And I'm like, I'm gonna get it because like I'm so fascinated with this world and I want to know as much as I can about the behind the scenes stuff. So I even typed in like on that day when I was asking, should I buy it? I'm like, I'm going to buy it because of the newsletters. Like send enter and like that's recorded now. And there never was a newsletter like
So
sync.
I have the list pulled up. It's much shorter than last time.
Does it include special behind the scenes stuff?
No. So
Okay.
what it
Oh,
says is
sad.
10% discount on concessions and merchandise, which they did deliver on last year.
Mhm.
Yeah, which was
Um,
nice.
Yeah.
it was nice. Early access to limited merchandise. They promised this last year, they never delivered. Members only events and game nights. Again, something they talked about last year, didn't deliver on, but maybe they'll do it this time. Skip the line, members fast pass. They had that last year, they delivered on it. It was awesome and I love it.
Especially in lore. Like
Especially
not waiting in
Yes.
that line was
not
dope.
having being able
Lovely.
to just swan in whenever I want and not have to worry about getting there early enough to get in line. Perfect. Love it. And then it says access to all of Winterfest, all of Springfest, all of Mythos, Lore and Aurora. And then it also says members access night Oktoberfest, which is one night. And I don't know what that is. I'm very curious about it. So
Ooh, fun.
I think that might be, oh, there is one other thing, which is that they had some staffing issues this season, which led to plot stalls and pacing issues. Just kind of a bummer. I don't know if there's really anything they could have done to fix it. So I'm not going to try to judge. I'm just saying kind of a bummer.
What do you mean
Yeah.
when you say staffing issues? Just the fact that like there were nights when it wasn't like very populated, there were less actors there, or
Yeah, and sometimes those were like plot important characters, so they couldn't move the story ahead.
so I don't know if this is fun. This was my actual only negative comment on my list, I think.
Oh,
Is that the I mean, not really, right? The one thing is they have a menu, like I think some of us have already discussed this. That's a huge improvement to be able to go onto the website before you go and know like what food's going to be there and the cost and everything.
yeah, genuinely awesome.
Like very cool. Another change that they made in the same part of the season, really, like might be somewhat related, is that they have in the Kettle Cafe, they used to have that huge whiteboard menu
Yeah.
up like on the same wall, like next to where the dragon is and everything. I imagine it must have been really difficult to physically like get to and make changes and like write on it. So maybe because of that, they just have a huge flat screen TV up there.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I say it's negative is like that's like not vibes to me.
Mm.
Oh, I didn't mind it.
I
It's
feel
kind of
like
nice to be
that's
able to just look through the door and see what's on the menu.
mm-hmm.
True.
Because that was another problem, is that you had to like physically go inside, and sometimes it was really crowded. So I kind of like the TV.
The gift shop keeps on traveling around, but to me, Kettle Cafe is like the bridge between reality and immersion because
Mm.
you've got the gift shop and
Well,
the
the gift
food
shop's now
and
in the
the,
little. This season, it was in the little armory cabin.
it had it both. Well, it had it. Some of the gift shop
Right. So
was in the Kettle Cafe part of the
it
season
kind of
anyway,
moved
because that's where
around,
I
but
found
they
it.
eventually settled in that little gingerbread house.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there goes my point.
Well, either way, yes, there was some gifts there, and it does make sense that like there's certain areas of the park that, for reasons of convenience and the fact that people are trying to make a transaction, it's not going to be a
Yeah.
1800s little European hamlet or whatever.
I will say it's probably nice for some people to have text as easy to read as possible than, somebody's
People like
handwriting
me,
or something.
apparently.
Yeah.
We can talk about the food this season, though. The food was good. They had a turkey panini that was like a Thanksgiving leftovers sandwich. It was cranberry sauce, gravy, stuffing, turkey, cheese. It was choice. They
The
had
gobbler,
a
always in our hearts.
strawberry rhubarb yogurt parfait muffin that was like a muffin with strawberry rhubarb yogurt in the center. They had pies. They had really good cookies. Like most of the soups were good. The lobster bisque kind of just tasted like butter. But the steak and ale soup's always good.
I'm always a little less than impressed because there's literally nothing that you can safely eat that's gluten-free.
Yeah, they also
because they have
don't.
small kitchens that are cross-contamination and stuff. And
The inclusion of the online menu was such a good idea. Is
mhm.
that, boy, it sure would suck if you were like vegetarian and you were hungry and decided you had dinner at the park only to find out that there are 0 vegetarian options, or maybe like
Yeah.
1.
Well, that's just my issue though, is like that's fine if you don't have options. But to me, it's not fine to not have options and not allow people to bring in food. That's a little
Yeah.
weird. I feel like most theme parks, though I could be mistaken, the ones I've been to allow you to take in food. So I find it kind of an interesting choice not to when there's not a very diverse menu.
It is at least nice though that you can look online and see that there aren't any options and maybe eat dinner before you go.
Yes, that is very true. How has Winterfest been?
I
Anything
haven't been yet.
Oh, okay.
I understand the first week there weren't any characters, but there was a promise that there will be.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe there's Winterfest going on right now. I wonder if it's happening as we speak, that there are
Oh.
characters in Winterfest.
I plan to attend tomorrow, but I haven't. I needed a little bit of a break after this past season, so
Sure.
been going
Well,
strong for 3 seasons straight. I need some time off.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Mythos because there's always this really big break with the slower seasons of Winterfest and Springfest, where I feel like we always see, or for the most part, the most changes every year for
Mhm.
Mythos as far as, upgrades or changes in gameplay and different things. So I'm definitely very curious to see what they have cooking up for us and always hopeful that it's going to be, better than we've seen before. So
Mythos is, at least for me, maybe it's just the timing of when I started attending. Mythos is Evermore to me, and I think it also helps
Mythos
that
is for sure their high fantasy season that a lot of people kind of
Yeah.
associate with Evermore. I feel that way about Lore because again, Lore was my first season, and
It's
so many
yeah,
people
Lore was my first season, so I really think about that. But my favorite story season that ever happened was an Aurora season that I was like the
we've got
most
the trio.
immersed and had the
between
most fun. But I love like dragons and typical high fantasy, so that's where Mythos really gets me.
my favorite seasons have been Lore seasons, but honestly, this past Mythos was a real banger. So like it was
It's
good.
true. I really liked this last Mythos.
That
So that's
Mythos-
why I'm so excited for Mythos again, because to me that was the best this year for
Not
sure.
excited for the heat, but I am excited for Mythos.
Yeah.
I like that it's like twice as long as the other ones. It really gives you some time to like settle in and develop
That's
relationships and
true.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
They have more of an opportunity to tell a story in Mythos than in the other ones, just by
Yes.
virtue of like the time.
I have heard that this Mythos is going to start early to mid-May and end in late August. So it's going to be pretty long.
I'm excited for that. Okay, did anybody else have any other thoughts that they wanted to share about Aurora or upcoming stuff?
The Convergence is happening in May.
Oh, thank you. That is so exciting. You look
Is that
confused,
going
Maude.
to, do you think that's going to overlap with Mythos, or do you think that's
No,
going
it's
to
before
continue to do-
Mythos.
Okay.
Okay. I thought that part of the convergence was being able to attend show nights of Evermore. Is that not the case?
I think it's a special event. So I just know that
Where
the
did
dates I've heard,
that was,
Mythos starts after the
I'm
Convergence.
gonna grab the invite really quick.
Okay.
I'm not going to the Convergence. I'm going to go instead to Convergence Station in Denver that week. So let me know how it is.
Okay, never mind. I was reading about it online because this doesn't say much about it. But anyway, the Convergence, Quincy's Tavern is
Yeah, May 3rd to 6th.
doing a
And
thing.
I believe Mythos starts a week or two later from what
Yeah. And
I
if you
read.
want to go, I'm sorry, because tickets are sold out.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
The
Last time we
VIP
checked.
admission
All of them
4-day
or just the
experience.
VIP tickets?
Oh, that's a good point. It probably was just the VIP tickets.
The VIP was May 2nd to 6th, right? And it was $1,000.
Yeah, 1,000.
And it's sold out. It looks like the general admission for just like Friday or Saturday or both are still available.
Okay, that's cool.
Cool.
So you can still go to part of it.
Activities include archery, the battle arena, axe throwing, potion making.
Curious about that.
It's probably the same that they've done before.
They've done before? What was it like when they did it before?
Yeah, it's
Oh
just
yeah,
the
Mythos
little
2021 they did that. Yeah.
yeah,
you
it's
could
just
pay
the little
gold.
craft where you like
Yeah.
put glitter and I don't know what they use, like shampoo or something, and put it
Gotcha.
in bottles.
That sounds cool though. And then train rides, quests, and a visit to Quincy's Lucky Griffin Tavern. So
Which
quests is
that
on
is
there, to
pretty
your
cool.
point.
That'll be really cool. I'm excited to see how that goes. I'm doing a bit of photography for that, so that'll be fun.
Let me know how it is, because like I said, I'm not going. So
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks everyone for joining us and keep tuned for further Evermore content in the future. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
See you later. See ya.